Hello, thank you for joining me this week. I have got a mug of tea in my neighbours at War Mug, and I have a blueberry muffin. I want a cinnamon bun, but there weren't any, so I'll have to have a blueberry muffin instead. So if this is your first time here, if you've been here before, thank you very much for coming to visit me again. And if this is your first time, my name is Deborah Carr. I am a USA Today bestselling author of historical fiction in that name. I also write contemporary romance series as Georgina Troy, and I've also written a few psychological mysteries as Ella Drummond. So as I said, thank you for joining me. So this week I thought I would do something slightly different, and I'm going to take part in the Authors Are Weird tag, because I think my family think I'm a bit weird, probably because my lifestyle, living in a fictional world, and let's be honest, with the world situation as it is right now, living in a fictional world that you can mostly control, I'm very grateful for that, to be honest. So I discovered this tag through lovely Emma Bennett. She's also an author. She writes in a couple of genres. She writes fiction, non-fiction. She's a coach, very clever lady, and she has her own YouTube channel, and I'll tag her below. And I think she discovered this from Heather Salter Purvis's author video channel, YouTube channel. So I'd like to tag a couple of people. I'd like to tag Glynis Peters. Again, I'll link Glynis below, another wonderful author. She writes historical fiction, and she also writes witchy books as Amber Raven, and also Sharon Booth, and I'll tag her below too. So let's get started. It's this, I suppose this will give you some sort of insight into my weird and crazy world and my normal. And so the first question I have to answer is, do you have bizarre internet searches? And if so, what's the weirdest one? I probably should have looked at this actually before I started properly. I listened to Emma's answers, but I can't remember them already. So yes, I probably do. When it comes to my historical fiction, some of the researchers will be, how would you describe a certain doorknob? I know that sounds odd, but I've actually wasted almost a day looking up doorknobs, and because the person put their hand out to turn the doorknob or whatever, in the end I thought, you know what, this is ridiculous. I'm wasting an awful lot of time. The reader doesn't actually care what the doorknob type is. I also had it's actually the Poppy Sisters, historical fiction set in Jersey in the prison of war camp. Two sisters, one is a nurse there, and also in France, at a station, a casualty clearing station. And one of the things, one of the patients in the prison of war camp had suffered a bad leg injury, and they used, I believe it's called the Carol Dakin system process. I can't remember what the last word should be for that, on his leg. And I was so fascinated by this and how they used it, obviously how painful it must have been. But when I wrote it, my publisher said, people want to be entertained by your book, and it's enough to know that this man suffered this horrible injury and that he's really suffering with the treatment he's receiving. We do not need to, it's not a textbook, and we do not need to go into such specific detail about how they treated him, which was a very good point. She knows what she's talking about. So those are my sort of weird, bizarre internet searches, are weird injuries during war, how they were treated. Also with my thrillers, how to kill somebody without being caught out. I mean, if anyone saw got my laptop or something and went through my history, like research history, I think, is this person like a serial killer or something? Or, does she have a really weird dark side to her that she's trying to hide? No, it's research for my books. And it really is, I promise. So the second question is, do you write people you know and dislike into your story as villains or dumb people to kill off? Now, I have a poster somewhere over there saying, be careful what you say. You might, I forget actually how it goes now. I might kill you in my novel or something. I can't remember how it goes. I should know. I've got two of those posters. Now, I know that Emma said no, she doesn't. I must admit, I have probably maybe not killed off somebody who was real, but probably had somebody in mind when I did something horrible to one of them. You know, a particular person in my life who has been rather toxic. You know, it's quite a good way of getting back at people by not actually hurting them, and they don't even know it's them that you're actually referring to when you do something to a character. And writing books about war or thrillers, you can probably do that sort of thing. I don't do it often. I definitely have done it once, definitely. I don't know what that says about me, and please forgive me, I'm not a horrible person. The third question is, does personal hygiene sometimes come second to writing? Ew, no. I couldn't even start writing unless I've had my bath or shower in the morning. But no, definitely personal hygiene comes first. I wouldn't be able to concentrate if I didn't feel clean. So no, that's a big fat no, that one. Question 4 is, do you go on baby name websites to help you name your characters? Now, Emma actually said no, she doesn't. But I do. I always do. So, for example, one of the things, because I've written 30 books now, so you don't want to reuse names. I went through a phase of people I remember having 3 books, one after the other, and there was a girl in each book, different names, but each name began with a P. So I think there was Phoebe, Portia, and I forget what the third P was. And it's like, really, there's a bit of a pattern here I need to change. But when I write my historical fiction, so for example, if it's set in the 1930s, I will look up the top 100 girls or boys' names born. So if the character's like in the mid-20s, in like 1905 or around 1905, and I'll sort of find popular names that way and try and find different names that I haven't used before. I know for The Witching Hour, my next book that I'm still working on at the moment, because it's about witches, it's about a witch and her daughter who's a reluctant witch, and it's about an ex-privateer who comes forward in time, much to his shock. I wanted unusual names, so I gave him the name Xavier because I've wanted to use that for a while. I used that as it was a secondary character years ago. I wrote that in a book, but I've always loved that name, and he's called Xavier Givroy. So that is an old Jersey name. I live in Jersey and I set my books mostly in Jersey. So I wanted a local name, but a local name that's died out. So I definitely went online to find that name. And I also, for the daughter, the reluctant witch's name, I've called her Briar. She was actually called, I think it was Juno, it was Ivy, and now Briar. I wanted things that had a meaning to witches, or could be used, something to do with the earth, or, you know, traditional traditions and people using like seasons and stuff like that. So Briar, obviously, you know, to do with nature, that sort of thing. So I do use it for those sorts of things. So yes, the answer to question 4 is I do go on baby name websites. Before the internet, I used to actually just have loads of baby name books. Thankfully, I don't need those now. So number 5 is, do you have a list of actors and actresses that would play your characters if there was an adaptation made? I don't now, but I did. To be fair, I have a bit of a crush on Pedro Pascal. You know, if you don't like him, that's not my problem. I do. So in my head, when I'm writing about Xavier Givroy, this ex-privateer who's condemned to death and who now has come forward 300 years in time and falls in love actually with a reluctant witch. But anyway, so he is in my head, the actor Pedro Pascal is in my head there. But for many books, I haven't had any actors or anybody in my mind. I did when I wrote Broken Faces. So Charles in Broken Faces, I wrote that it's like 2012. I think it was published in 2015, Broken Faces. And that's about 4 friends. So it's 2 guys and 2 women. 2 of them, one of the chaps. So Freddie is in love with Meredith. Charles, Freddie's best friend, his younger sister is Lexi. So they're sort of friends or relatives. So Charles was very much, his look was very much like Henry Cavill, another Jersey guy. I don't know why I'm saying another Jersey guy. Pedro Pascal is not a Jersey guy. But anyway, so that was Henry Cavill. Freddie wasn't actually based on anybody, strangely enough. So I've only done it a few times. There was a beautiful Italian actor. I don't remember his name, but I found him and I used his look for Alessandro in the second book in my Golden Sands Bay, Alessandro. So yes, so I've done it a couple of times, but not really often, no. Question 6. Have you ever stared at a stranger because they look like one of your characters? No. No, seeing Pedro Pascal out, especially in Jersey, would be quite exciting, and I would stare, but no. I mean, I have seen Henry Cavill around, and to be fair, I did stare, but that wasn't because he was a character in my book. It was because, like, wow, he's even more beautiful in real life. But no, but I would try not to stare, but I would be intrigued by somebody if it was their characteristics more. If I could, or what they were saying, but mostly their characteristics. Think, oh, I could use that in a book. That would be good for such and such a character. I would probably do that. Or if their characteristics inspired a character or something about them, yes, I would probably be staring at somebody. But other than that, no. 7, do you talk to yourself to help work through scenes? If so, where do you talk to yourself? Yes, I do. Not all the time, but some of the time I will. I definitely talk through scenes because I'm trying to work it out. And yes, I will talk through. Look, not everybody talks themselves. I always have dogs. I've got two dogs in here at the moment, so I tend to talk to them. Not that they listen, and I can't say I blame them. But yes, I will talk through scenes to get it clear in my head. Because one thing, it's writing something down, then seeing it, the act of writing something down helps you remember it or working it out. Seeing it written down and reading it helps it sort of work through in your head. And also hearing yourself, I find that also is another way of working something out or seeing it more clearly. And I do that mostly either when I'm in my studio here, because that's where I generally work, or when I'm out walking the dogs, because that's when I tend to work through plot holes or places where I'm stuck, really, in my book. So, 7, do you talk to yourself? No, I've just done that one. Number 8, there's only 10. Number 8, while writing, do you make the expressions your characters are making? I might do, to try and describe them, because you want to try and describe things in a book to make them as real as possible, obviously, if you're a reader, but also find a new word or a word that's probably not often used, but is a really good word that works for something. So for that reason, I might make expressions and sort of, or probably active, like putting my hand out and turning something, or putting my hand out and picking something up, or doing something. What does that actually look like? Rather than what do I think it looks like, what does it actually look like? So I might do that sort of thing. Number 9, do you ever practice answering interview questions in case you make it big? No. I mean, I practice only when I'm going to give a talk. I will talk through it. I will practice talking through it, but no, I don't. That's not answering interview questions. So no, that number 9's a big no. Number 10, last one. I hope I haven't bored you, and if you're still awake and still listening, thank you. Number 10 is, do you have a soundtrack and or playlists for your book or scenes from your book? Now, I don't, which is very odd. I don't have that. I know a lot of authors have a soundtrack or a playlist, I should say, for each book that they write, and they love putting that together. I don't. And I've always thought I like to write in complete silence, so I don't. But music really makes me quite emotional, like it does most people. It brings out emotions. And I've always thought it would probably be a really good and helpful thing, a good writing aid to use while I'm writing. But because I like to write in silence, I have never actually done it. So those are my questions and those are my answers. I hope you enjoyed them. And I hope I haven't bored you terribly. If you've got any questions, please answer below. And if you'd like to have a little green light, little alert next to my name in your subscriber list, when I ever have a new video, please click subscribe below. Thank you for joining me. I'm now going to go and actually get on with my edits, which is what I should be doing. And I'm going to have my cup of tea, a cooling cup of tea, and my lovely little blueberry muffin. So if you think authors are weird, you probably wouldn't be wrong. I know I can be, but I don't think I'm that too bad. Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed listening to my answers of my questions. Thank you.